Hi, I'm going to show you how to take your measurements now. It's useful to be able to take your own measurements accurately because then you don't have to rely on somebody else taking the measurements for you. So the two lots of measurements we're going to take are circumference measurements, so any measurements that go across or around the body. And then the second group of measurements we're going to take are going to be vertical measurements or length measurements. So it's helpful to know that clothes hang from two major places on the body. They hang from your shoulders and they hang from your waist. So because of that, most of our measurements are based around the waist location. So a lot of the length measurements, everything is a measurement in relation to your waist, which will make more sense as we go along in the video. So first off, what we need to do is locate the waist. So the waist is your narrowest part generally. It's where you bend. People carry their weight in different places, so you might not necessarily have a very defined waist. So then you can find it by bending side to side, and it's where your body crease is. It's where the base of your ribs are. And if you turn to the back, it's generally where the small of your back curves quite a bit. So that's where your waist is. So to mark the waist, we're going to need a piece of elastic long enough to be tied around your waist. So locate your natural waist and then tie the elastic round, and you can just tie it in a bow. I prefer using elastic because you can tie it a little bit tighter so that it's, snug to your body. And also if you move, it doesn't kind of ride up or anything like that. It just stays at your waist point. And then it's a good idea to bend side to side a little bit if you're not sure if it's on your waist, and it will just naturally sit where your waist is. And your waist elastic should be parallel to the ground, so not dipping at the front or dipping at the back. And then the next piece of elastic needs to be a bit longer than the waist elastic, and what we're going to do with this is pass it around our back, around our shoulders, and then tie it at the back neck. So I'm just going to show you how to do that. You pass it under the arms, so it needs to be quite snug under the arms over the shoulder blades. It goes up and over the shoulders, and then you can tie it at the back neck. Again, because it's elastic, it doesn't matter if it's a bit snug because it will just move with your body, and you won't need to worry about it dropping. What you want to make sure is that this bit here is parallel to the waistline and not dropping or lifting up. So let's get on and take our horizontal measurements. The most common are bust, waist and hip, so we can start with those. To measure your bust, you want to pass the tape measure over your shoulder blades, level with your bust line, and then measure over the fullest part of your bust. If you bring the tape measure round to the front, you can have a look at the measurement in front of you so that you're not twisting or anything like that, and make a note of your bust measurement. To do your waist measurement, you just measure around the tape, the elastic or whatever that you put around your waist. If you can't see, if you can't bend or anything like that, then you can slide your finger along the tape measure until it meets the other end, pull the tape measure out, and then have a look at that measurement. And then we're going to take two hip measurements. So we want top hip and full hip. So top hip is where your hip bones are, basically. On average, it's about 10 centimetres down from the natural waist, but that can be different depending on your torso length. So to measure your top hip is the same as the other two measurements, the bust and the waist, in that you want to make sure that your tape measure is parallel to the waist elastic and also parallel to the ground. So if it's helpful, you can stand in front of a mirror and just turn your head to the side to check that you're measuring in a parallel way. And then make a note of your top hip measurement. Then you want to measure your full hip measurement, which is just where your widest part is. So that might be round your bum, it might be round your stomach, it might be round your thighs. Have a look in the mirror, you probably know where your widest part is. And then make a note of that measurement. Okay, so now we want to measure the overbust, which is also known as the chest circumference. So this is an important measurement if you've got a bust cup that's outside of a B or a C, because it will help you to determine whether or not you need to do a full bust adjustment. So to take this measurement, pass the tape measure over your shoulder blades, and then you want to go over the top of your bust. Make sure that the end of the tape measure is in the centre of your chest, and that after you've passed the tape measure round, make sure you put your arms down to then have a look at what the measurement is, because if you lift your arms up, it actually makes your chest narrower, and so you might end up getting the wrong measurement. So make sure, because you can see when I'm doing that, it's there when I lift my arms up. When I put them down, it's actually about 1.5 inches bigger than that. So you want to make sure it's a comfortable measurement round the circumference of your body. That's your overbust. To take your underbust measurement, which is also known as the rib cage, you want to go roughly where your bra band would sit, under your bust all the way to the front. So again, you want to make sure that this is a parallel measurement, so it needs to be parallel to your waist string and parallel to the ground. You don't want it dropping down at the back or being too high or anything. So you can take quite a snug measurement for that. This is useful for contour wear and lingerie and things like that. So for some measurements, I'm going to show you on the mannequin and on myself, because it's easier for me to show you on something else, and then I can show you how to take your own measurement in that way. So we're going to start from the top of the body and work our way downwards for the rest of the horizontal measurements. And so one measurement that you get asked quite often is your neck base circumference. And so this measurement is basically quite a close measurement around the base of your neck. Sometimes I see people measuring a bit further down into their bodies, but you want something that's quite close. You need to not travel up into the neck. It needs to just, basically where your neck joins your body is the bit you want to be measuring. There's also, I think it's called the clavicle bone here. You want to measure around there, around the sides of your neck, and at the back where the nape is. So on a mannequin, it's roughly where the seam is. So you can see it's actually quite a close measurement. So you want to take the tape measure all the way around the side of the neck, make a scoopy shape at the front so that it's snug but not strangling you, and then round to the back to meet the tape measure. So on myself, it's easier for me to pass the tape measure around the back, and it sits at the nape of my neck. Then it's kind of like you're putting a tie on, if you remember school days. That was fun. I'm so happy I don't have to wear a tie anymore. So you pass it around the sides of your neck and then around your clavicle bone at the front. And then you can feel where the tape measure is and have a little look at your measurement. So an average measurement for sizes kind of 10 to 18 is anywhere between 36 and 44 centimetres. If you get something a little bit out of that, absolutely fine. If it's wildly out, then you might want to think about remeasuring. Now we're going to measure the shoulder. For this measurement, you have got your elastic that will sit right by the side of your neck. That's where we want to start measuring. So you want to place the tape measure along the centre of your shoulder line, running from the elastic at the side of your neck all the way down to your shoulder ball. So if you aren't sure where your shoulder ball is, if you haven't got a prominent shoulder bone, what you can do is, if you put your finger on the edge of your shoulder and lift your arm up, when your shoulder is raised, you can feel like a depression in the bone. That's where you want to be measuring to. It's basically the start of your arm. So you want to take that full measurement and then make a note of what that is. Next is your cross chest measurement. That is literally just across the front of your chest. So you can measure from the elastic. It's basically where your arm joins your body, and you're measuring all the way across and make a note of that measurement. We're going to take the armhole measurement now. So I'm going to demonstrate where you're going to be measuring on the mannequin, because it's easier for me to show you. Plus she doesn't have any arms, so it's easy to see her armhole. So essentially, you're going to be measuring around the shoulder bone, around the front of the body, kind of around here, quite close under the arm. So you want to go about 1 centimetre under your natural armpit, and then around the back. So like the neck base circumference, we want to get quite a close measurement around your armhole, because later on you can change the size of your armhole and things, but for now we want a representation of the body. So to take your own armhole measurement, I advise measuring the shoulder that's opposite to your dominant hand. So I'm right-handed, so I'm going to measure my left armhole. I drape the tape measure over my back, collect it from underneath my arm, make a circle with the tape measure, and then I put my arm down and just make sure that it's comfortable. Like it's not too tight, it's not too baggy. If you've got an item of clothing that's got a good armhole on it, you can always measure that armhole too. So I'm happy with that. And then I'm gonna make a note of that as my armhole. Bust separation just means nipple to nipple. So in a comfortable bra, or whatever you would normally wear, you want to measure between your 2 bust points and then make a note of that. And that is just so that you can make sure that your body stars point to the right bit. Arm circumference, or top arm measurement, is around the widest part of your bicep. So I find it helpful, again, to drape the tape measure around the back of my arm, slide it around, make a circle, and then just check my measurement that way. You want quite a snug measurement again, but you also want to make sure that your sleeves are going to fit you. To measure your elbow, I would suggest bending your arm slightly. I call this the Barbie arm because that's how she stands. Make a slight Barbie arm and then measure around your elbow just like you did with the top arm. This just gives you a bit of wiggle room so that you don't make your sleeve so tight you can't bend your arm or like put your arm up and things like that. To measure your wrist, it's literally around the wrist bone. So you want to get a fairly tight measurement and then measure what your wrist is. This is useful for cuffs and things like that. So the next measurement we want to take is going to be the cross back. So that is across the shoulder blades, around about mid armhole level, across the widest part of the back, around here on the body. So you want to measure from the arm crease to the other arm crease. So it's quite a long measurement all the way around to the join where your arm meets your body. I'm going to show you how to take your own one of those measurements next. To take this measurement, I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit unorthodox, but it can be quite fun. So what I'd like you to do is stick a square of paper on a wall somewhere. You can stick it on there with blue tack or double-sided tape, and it needs to be around about your upper torso kind of height. So you want it to cover kind of waist to shoulder sort of area, and then stick that on a wall. Then what you're going to do is get 2 pens, medium-sized kind of felt pens, take the caps off, and then you're going to stick the pen under your arm with the nibs facing out the back, and I want you to push as much of the pen as possible out towards the back. You can stand up straight, and you can check in a mirror to make sure that you've got pen coming out from behind you, and then walk up to the wall, and then what you want to do is make contact with the paper and just draw a line downwards gently. Then when you step away, you'll have 2 marks. I made a special mark here, but that's okay. It's definitely not my width mark. All there is left to do now is just to measure in between the 2 marks that you've made on the paper. So I've made mine a bit thicker so that you can see it a bit more easily. If you've got quite a thick line, measure from the middle of one line to the middle of the other. So that is an approximation of your cross-back measurement. If you want an absolutely 100% scientific measurement, you need to get somebody else to take it because it's pretty hard to take your own. But this is as close as you can get to getting an accurate measurement. For your leg circumference measurements, you want to take your thigh, your knee and your ankle. For your thigh measurement, it's just around the widest part. So locate where that is and measure around your thigh. For your knee measurement, do the same thing as you did with the elbow and have a, I don't know, Barbie knee? I don't think it's called Barbie knee. Slightly bend your knee so you've got enough room to bend when you're in your trousers. And measure around your knee, circ. For your ankle, it's the same as your wrist. You want to measure around the bone. I've got big old boots on, so there's no point in me measuring around my boots. Although actually, if you're going to wear your trousers over big boots, you could take a measurement around your boots as well. Now for the vertical or length measurements. So a lot of the length measurements, as I said previously, come from the waist, which is why we've got an elastic around our waist. The next most important place to locate when you're doing length measurements is your nape. So that is the bone at the back of your neck. If you're not sure, put your finger on the base of your neck at the back and then lean your head forward and you should be able to feel where the nape of your neck is. So a lot of the upper body length measurements come from that point, so it's really important to locate that. It's also where the elastic sitting that's tied around the back of your neck, that should be all kind of in the same place. So the first measurement I'm going to show you is the nape to bust point. So this is a measurement that goes from the bone at the back of the neck, follows around the side of the neck straight down to the bust point. So you place the tape measure on the bone at the back, it comes round the neck quite snugly to the side, and then you carry the tape measure down to your bust point. If you know that your two bust points are different, you might want to measure both sides to allow for that when you're making patterns. So on your own body, place the tape measure on your nape, try and get it as close to the middle as you can, and then bring it round the side of your neck straight down to the bust point. Make sure you look up, so you want to be stood straight, because if I do this, you'll see that I actually get a shorter measurement when I stand back up. So you want to make sure you stand up, pass the tape measure over your bust, and then put your thumb at the bust point and grab the tape measure, and that's your nape to waist measurement for the front. Following on from the nape to bust point measurement, we want to take the nape to waist measurement over the front of the body. So, like you did before, you want to put the tape measure on the nape at the back, pass the tape measure around the side of the neck, over the bust point, and then down to the waist. Again, if you've got different bust points, you might want to take both sides and make a note of each side's measurement. So on your own body, just like you did before, holding the tape measure at the back on the nape, take a close measurement, like you want to take the tape measure in close to the neck, over the bust. This is really important that you stand straight and look forwards. You want to go over the bust and then down to the waist. So use your thumb to feel where the waist elastic is and grab the tape measure at that point, and then that's your nape to waist front measurement. Next we're doing nape to waist back. So that is simply your nape, the neck bone measurement, right the way down to your back waist. This is the most common torso length measurement that you'll be asked for when you're making blocks. So to take this measurement on yourself, what I would do is take the tape measure in your dominant hand, pass it round the back of your body and place it on your nape, and then with the other hand, use your thumb to rest against the waist elastic so you know where your back waist is. Stand really straight and then grab the tape measure where your thumb is, and then that is your nape to waist measurement. Next we've got your sigh depth. So sigh, S-C-Y-E, just means armhole. I don't know why they say sigh, they make it way too fancy and complicated. Just means where your armhole's going to sit. So on the mannequin is basically where the base of my arm would be. So it's the basis for your armhole location. So it's kind of around the shoulder blades, underneath the base of your arm. So you've put this elastic around your shoulders, which should be parallel to the waist at the back. So this top line here, that is the base of your armhole, because it's coming around both of your arms and it's level with the base of your arms. So you're just going to measure between the nape and that first bit of elastic. So to take your own armhole depth measurement, firstly make sure that your elastic at the back hasn't rolled down. It needs to be right under your armpit and round the back of your body. Take your tape measure in your dominant hand, pass it round to the back, place it on your nape, and then if you can, with your other arm, reach behind, and again with your thumb on the elastic, grab the tape measure in that location. So an average armhole is 20, and the average armhole depth rather is 20. The kind of range of measurements could be anything between 18 and 22 or 23. To measure your arm length, we want to measure from the shoulder dip where you left off with your shoulder length all the way down the arm to the wrist bone. So I want you to place the tape measure on your shoulder bone, channel your inner violinist and keep it in place with your chin. Pass the tape measure around your elbow and then down to your wrist bone and make a note of that measurement. So the reason I do it around the elbow is to make sure that your sleeve is the longest that it needs to be for you to move around and not have a too short sleeve. So now we're going to take the lower body length measurements. So first up is waist to top hip. So you want to place your tape measure on your waist tape or elastic, put your thumb where your hip bone is and roll it round the body and grab the tape measure in that location. Make a note of that measurement. It's really important that you don't look down when you're taking the measurements, because you crunch your torso and you get a shorter measurement than reality. Then you want to take your waist to full hip measurement. For this I suggest absolutely looking in a mirror. So you can place the tape measure to your waist elastic, check the location of your widest point in the mirror, and roll your hand around your body, grab the tape measure in that location and make a note of that measurement as well. For waist to knee, I dangle the tape measure until I'm happy with the location of the end of it, and then hold it in place around about mid-thigh and then stand up. And then I roll the rest of the tape measure up to my waist elastic and make a note of that measurement. So waist to floor, you can, let's go fishing. Dangle your tape measure down. As soon as it makes contact with the floor, stand back up and then measure up to your waist elastic. Again, you can look in the mirror to make sure that you're getting it right down to the floor. If you haven't got a tape measure with a bit of metal on the end of it, you can blue tack a penny or something like that to it to give it a bit more weight, and then make a note of that measurement. Another measurement that you're asked to take quite often is nape to floor. So I don't know about you, but I'm super long, and if I do that, my tape measure isn't long enough to measure all the way down to the floor. So the other thing you can do is add your nape to waist back measurement to your waist to floor measurement to get your whole torso length. And that's super useful for things like jumpsuits and maxi dresses. So for trousers, you're going to want to measure your inside leg. Go fishing again. You want to dangle your tape measure. I take it down to the floor, but you could go down to your ankle if you want to. But I think if you take a floor measurement, you get an overall picture of your whole body length. And then hold it in place at the knee, and then bring the tape measure right up to your crotch and then make a note of that measurement. So next we're doing the outside leg, and it's the same principle as the inside leg. Measure to the same location. So if you did floor last time, do floor this time. If you did ankle, do ankle. And you want to stand up straight, drop the tape measure straight down to the floor, and then hold it in place at your waist elastic and make a note of that measurement. So now we're going to take the crotch measurements for some trousers. First off, you want to measure your crotch length. So that is where the crotch happens down from the waist. So it's literally where your legs join. We don't want to go round the body in any way, literally just the length. So place your tape measure to your waist elastic, pull it down, and then just mark the point where your legs join each other and make a note of that measurement. Next is a really fun measurement, which is your crotch length. So for this one, you want to pass your tape measure around your body, and you're going to go flossing. So you want to pull the tape measure up the back to your waist elastic, and you want quite a snug body measurement round to the front, and then make a note of that length. So the last measurement for your trousers is you want to measure your body rise. So that is how much your body lengthens when you sit down. So to do that, sit on a chair, take a ruler, and then measure flat from the chair behind you up to the waist elastic. So I'm really long, I'm 5'11", and my body rise is the length of one of these rulers. If your body length is going to be a bit longer than that, you think, then just use a slightly longer ruler. And make sure after you've taken the measurement that you measure with your tape measure. For two reasons. One, the numbers don't go to each end of the ruler. And two, you've been measuring with this the whole time, so you want to stay consistent with your measurement implements. That's it, you've taken all your measurements. So now you're ready to go forth and learn how to make fabulous patterns.